My next guest is going to be back in action. Boxing bare knuckle coming up here. Fusion Fight League, March 7th, and you can watch that live on Spectation Sports. If you can't go in person, he's going to be taking on Lloyd Mix. It is Justin Jaynes joining me here on the program. Justin, how you doing, man?
Hey, man, been a while since we've talked. I'm glad to be back on the show. Glad to be back in action. Doing what I love, competing at the highest level.
Yeah, tell me how this all came together. Pretty unique opportunity here doing a boxing bare knuckle fight.
Lloyd Mix has been around for a real long time. He had a pretty big career in Bellator, but he's old, man. Plain and simple, I'm 35. He's 39. He's been around the block. I wasn't, particularly fond of his performance, and I called it the way I saw it. I said that Lloyd looked old and he was showing his age and his speed and this and that. Well, the next show I commentated for, Lloyd was there and he was drunk and I was in a suit and I was walking to the restroom and he stops me and he gets face to face with me and he's like, "Oh, I don't like the way you commentated my fight. I thought I won the fight. Because of you, the judges may have heard and this and that." I'm like, "Whatever, bro. Like, I'm there to call the fight the way I see it. I'm not playing sides to anybody. You look old. You look slow. It is the way it is." And now he got like nose to nose with me, and the promoter was like kind of in the back, or not the promoter, Richie DiPaolo, my manager. He's a matchmaker for Fusion as well. I was like, "Hey, Richie, come over here in case Lloyd throws a punch and I start whooping his ass. I want backup to show that I didn't start this." So Richie comes over and he's like, "Well, how about me and you step in there?" I was like, "All right, hey, man, I'll step in whenever you want. I'm a fucking UFC vet. I'm the man. I'll fucking kill you." And so, Lloyd said, "Okay, let's do it." And then when we started putting things together, he had stipulations. Well, it has to be at this weight and it has to be at this location. And I'm like, "Dude, you can't call me out. And now you're making all these stipulations." Look, I'm 35 years old. I'm not fighting in the UFC. I don't like to cut weight anymore. I don't see any reason to cut weight. He's like, "Oh, well, if you're not going to cut weight, then, I don't think we should have this." I'm like, "Dude, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, man." And we're not going back. Neither of us are going to the UFC. Neither of us are fighting for the world championship. I had neck surgery. I've had nose surgery. I've had hand surgery since I last talked to you. I'm falling apart. So anyways, we schedule a fight. He backs out. We're 3 months out. He calls the promoter. He's like, "Oh, I hurt my rib." I'm like, "Bro, you're 3 months out. You hurt your rib and you think in 3 months you're not going to be all right, whatever." And then Lloyd's like, "All right, well, now that we're rescheduling, it has to be at 155. I said, "I'm not making 155 for a couple $1,000s. When I was in the UFC, I was making 20 and 20. That was worthwhile to make 45, 55. Let's do a catch weight at 165. He's like, "Absolutely not." So finally we met at 160. And then he's like, "Oh, I don't want to do MMA because all you're going to do is take me down." And it's like, Lloyd, and this is how stupid this guy is, James. You've been a witness to my career. I've been on your show before. I had one takedown attempt my whole UFC career. I've had one takedown attempt in my last, 15 fights. He was looking for a way out. So he's like, "All right, it can't be MMA. It has to be bare knuckle." And I'm not a bare knuckle fighter, but you know what? I'm going to go out there, get this check mark. I gave him no more. There's no other way he could backpedal out of this. I'm even going to hit, and I put this for him because Lloyd's next biggest thing was he's like, what did he say? He's like, "Oh, well, I'm not going to make enough money." So I talked to the promoter and I said, "All right, I want to fight in Lloyd's hometown, not a town 3 hours away. I want to fight in Lloyd's hometown so he can make ticket sales." And now he has no way to back out. So we're fighting in Missoula, Montana. That's his hometown. And I plan to go in there and slap this little bitch in front of everybody, man. And I have a lot of respect for Lloyd and what he's done in his career, but how he went about this fight, I thought was very Bush League. And, now I'm going to make him pay for it.
You make my job so easy. I just ask one question and I get everything answered there too. Okay, I didn't know about any of that. So that all kind of makes sense and kind of putting everything together. What made you want to come back? Because we haven't seen you in a while. Obviously, you're doing the commentary. I guess just because this grudge match kind of, formed itself. And is that part of the reason why you are competing still?
Yeah, man. It's just like I said, I wouldn't even call it a grudge match because I don't hate Lloyd or anything. It's not that personal. It's just like, man, don't call me out and then try to backpedal your way out of it. He tried to big dick me straight and simple, expecting me probably to back down. But as you know, regardless of outcome or fights, I don't back down from fights. I've struggled in my last 7 fights, but what people fail to realize, they look at my wins and losses like, "Oh, you've lost a bunch." Yeah, you're right. I have lost a bunch, but every guy I fought in my last 6 losses, it was either in the UFC, a UFC vet, a PFL vet who I beat, who I knocked out who I finished in the first round, and I just lost to a one championship kickboxer. So it's like I'm still fighting even at the end of my career, even at 35 years old. I'm still always fighting the best of the best. And one of the guys I lost to is 2-0 in the UFC. Another UFC vet, Carl Deaton, I fought. A PFL vet, Carson Hardman, one championship kickboxer in my last fight. So guys, I'm still fighting the best fighters in the world. I'm not taking chump change fights. And now I look at Lloyd, and at one point he was an incredible world beater of a fighter, and he's still super, super tough. He's just old. So I hope to go in there and, knock this old school Bellator vet off.
When you were doing commentary for his fight, did it throw you off with his last name? Because I remember him as Lloyd Woodard when he was in Bellator. I don't know what the deal is there. Did he take his wife's last name? I don't even know the answer to that.
I've only known him as Lloyd Mix. I'm not sure the backstory about him. As soon as I've heard of him,
you didn't know that though. When he was in Bellator, he went as Lloyd Woodard. It threw me off, and then I saw the photo of him, and I'm like, oh, that's the same guy. He fought, I remember him fighting. He fought Kurt Hollabaugh in Titan FC, and he was Lloyd Woodard back then. And then I don't know, ever since, I don't know when he changed his last name. So supposed to interview him today. We're hoping to reschedule that one, but I want to know the answer to that because I think that's interesting. But let's talk about Lloyd Mix. Just, as far as what he brings to the table, you sort of mentioned it there. You feel like he's a bit older or slower, but what about from a stylistic perspective? What are you expecting from him as a striker in this matchup?
I expect pure toughness, man. Again, I don't have any, I know it might sound like I'm talking shit about Lloyd, but I don't have any beef with Lloyd, and I give the guy respect. He's been around the sport. He's been in Bellator. He went to decision with Michael Chandler. I knew he had some big wins in Bellator early on, but Lloyd's best asset and his biggest asset isn't his technique. It's just his toughness, man. This guy is as tough as a coffin nail, man. It's really hard to put him away. I know he has been finished before, but man, he has no quit in him, man. He's always in great shape. I expect him, to be ready to go 5 rounds, man. And I know it's going to be, I can't get in my own head. And, honestly, I have a lot of power, in MMA. I have a lot of knockouts in MMA, but without gloves on, I don't want to throw 100% power and, hit the top of his head or hit him in the forehead and break my hand. So really this whole camp has been about pulling back the power and more putting on volume. What I expect from Lloyd is to be ready to fight. He's going to be in shape, and I know it's going to be tough to put him away.
Take me through camp a bit. Obviously, people who don't know, you're a coach now at Extreme Couture, which is awesome. I always kind of figured you were going to go that route. Just
well,
with,
did you know? I sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I've been coaching there since 2009.
Oh, have you? Okay, but
yeah.
I just mean more in a full-time capacity though, because obviously when you were in the UFC, probably couldn't do as much, right? So
yeah, I definitely backed off coaching. I cut a lot of clients out just because I wanted to put more time into myself, and I knew I had a short window in the UFC regardless if I win or lose. I'm old, man. I'm 35 years old, so the MMA chews you up and spits you out quick. So it's been a great transition. This camp has been great. Been working with Jordan Christensen, who fights with BKFC, Roman Isbell as always, Dennis Davis. It's I tell you what, training for BKFC not BKFC, but bare knuckle has been such a breath of fresh air.
Yeah,
because all I have to focus on is boxing. I don't have to worry about getting submitted. I don't have to worry about getting kicked. I don't have to worry about getting kneed. So, a lot of bag work, a lot of cardio bag work, a lot of road work, just cracking mitts and sparring, I've only been sparring 3-minute rounds because I want to pick up that pace. So, it's been great. I haven't had the nagging injuries that I've had for an MMA because, I had neck surgery. I don't know if you can still see the scar, but I had disc replacement, and, coming back, getting ready for my last couple MMA fights were tough because my neck and my traps were always so sore from getting guillotined, from getting rear naked choke, from guys trying to decapitate me. And this bare knuckle, I haven't had to worry about that, and I feel great.
Good. That's good to hear. How much weight do you have to cut for this fight? Because you mentioned it's 160. Is it what? Because I don't even know how much you walk around at.
I woke up at 172 this morning. I mean, it's
okay.
It's nothing, but at the end of the day, I just don't like cutting weight, and I don't care if it was 1 pound or 10 pounds. I just don't like to sit in the hot tub and be miserable. And Lloyd is so fucking stupid. I've talked to this guy on the phone, and he's an idiot. He's like, well, I like to cut weight, and I like to sit in the tub, and I like to suffer. I was like, hey man, good for you. Just go. You can suffer as long as you want. I don't like to do that. So. I didn't even want to weigh in. I would just want to do 170, man. There's no point at this point in my career, and even his career, especially because he's older than me. Why are we cutting weight? We've competed our whole career at 155, 160, 165, 170. Why are we getting in the tub and taking years off our life, man? It's just not something I want to fight. I desire to fight. I love competing, but just getting in the tub for a couple $1,000s just isn't worth it to me. And you know what? If I start to get uncomfortable in the tub, I'll pay him his $500 and we'll move on.
Okay, understandable for sure. When are you heading out there, and who's going to be in your corner?
I'm going to be heading out Wednesday morning. We weigh in Thursday evening, and then we fight Friday. Roman Isbell is going to be in my corner. Unfortunately, I've only gotten one corner for this fight, just because that ticket prices are so expensive from Vegas. So Fusion's only going to fly one guy out, and it's going to be Roman Isbell as always.
How's this fight playing out? How do you see it unfolding? You kind of gave us a little hint of it earlier, but March 7th, how's this one going down?
I'm not going to sit here and do the traditional, I'm going to knock him out in the first round. I'm so sick of guys and, having my own podcast and having guys on, and it's such a reoccurring statement. I'm going to knock him out in the first round. Listen, like I said, I'm going to take Lloyd into deep water, man. And you know what? I'm going to be obviously looking for the finish the whole fight. But I expect this to go 4 or 5 rounds. I mean, there's a good chance this goes to decision. I'm in shape. I'm strong. I'm going to bully Lloyd around for 5 rounds. And if I'm able to find the finish within those 5 rounds, that'll be great. But if not, I'm ready to go the full distance and pepper this guy up for 10 minutes.
What about after this? I know the focus is on Friday, the big fight here. Is it just, see what opportunities come your way? Because it seems like things are going well with coaching, commentary. You got a lot of things going on outside the cage, right?
Yeah, man. It's I don't know where I'm going to go with my career after this. Coaching has been going great. Commentary has been going great. I worked for CFFC for some Division I wrestling. They had me come in. I'm looking at, me and John Morgan have a great relationship with CFFC. I used to coach John's kids, but John Morgan and Roadhouse MMA. Man, I have so many windows of opportunity right now, and I'm very fortunate that when you hear me talk, I'm not slurring my words. I'm not punch drunk yet. And, honestly, and I'm not throwing shade at Lloyd because we're fighting this weekend, but, Lloyd's been around for such a long time, and he came out with a video on Monday, and you'll hear when you talk to him, I'll tell you the truth, man. And again, I'm not throwing shade at Lloyd, but he's punch drunk, man. When he talks, he slurs his words, he fumbles his words. He doesn't make sense. Like when he announced us fighting just a couple days ago, he's like, hey, man, I'm at the gym getting it. You guys better be ready to come out March 17th. And I'm like, March 17th, Lloyd, we fight in like 5 days. Like it's March 7th. And, again, it's not throwing shade at him. He's just such a tough dude. He's taken so much damage through the years. I need to take care of my brain. My next phase of my life is commentating and coaching. And I don't want to be that guy that's slurring his words. I don't want to be that guy with CTE. I'm going to take it day by day. But if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. And there's no point for me to take. I'm not going back to the UFC. And, in this last year, really, getting knocked out and tough enough in my last fight kind of really solidified that for me. And you know what? I can see that I have a great passion in coaching now. With that being said, if I go out there and starch Lloyd Mix in a couple rounds or have an incredible performance and BKFC calls me, because there is rumor that they're doing a $15 million tournament with 64-man bracket. Now they call me and they're like, hey, we want to put you in this tournament. All right, now that's worthwhile. But I'm not fighting for $1,000 anymore. I probably won't fight for anything less than $10,000. If it doesn't motivate me to get me out of bed in the morning, I'm not doing it. And that's the position I'm in right now.
Well said. We're looking forward to a Fusion Fight League, March 7th. You can watch it live on Spectation Sports. Justin, appreciate it. Let people know where they can get a hold of you on social media, any other things you got going on, your podcast, all that stuff. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, man, appreciate you. If you guys want to follow me on Instagram, it's JAY09MI. That's on Instagram. And, I've been rocking this podcast. Me and my guy, Huzaifa. It's called the 10-7 MMA Show. It's on YouTube. We just crossed, I think we're at 1,500 subscribers. We've been doing this for 2 years, man. And this finally year, had some great things break off. So, I'm really positive in that, guys. CFFC, been working Division I wrestling, and you can catch me at the Fusion Fight Cage this weekend in the cage. Typically, I'll be on the outside of the cage talking about the fights. So hopefully, see you guys there.